Good morning, it's Austin James. Hope things are going well on your end. Wanted to talk today about why I'm not an advocate for couples counseling in an abusive situation. Just to get right after it, initially, I don't look at the situation as a couple's problem. It's an abuser's problem. The abuser has inflicted a lot of pain and damage into the relationship, onto the victim. And I think until that is addressed, until the abuser wakes up to his abuse or her abuse, abuse is gender neutral. I'll normally use the male for the abuser, female for the victim. That's the way it was in my case, but in no means do abuse is gender neutral. Until the abuser wakes up and realizes his abusive nature and lifestyle and programming and begins to work on that in a radical manner, going in for couples counseling is, in my opinion, absolutely useless. Number one, the abuser the whole time, none of the problems are his issues, or if any of the problems are his issues, they're very small. The vast majority of problems lies with the mate, the victim, right? So I think couples counseling just magnifies that because obviously the victim wants to go in and see healing and hear her side of the story to invoke some healing on the abuser's side. But unfortunately, the abuser is also sitting there and going, pointing, right? Her, she, if she would do this, if she would do that. And he's just staying totally deceived and blinded to his issues. There's no point in that. It's just in my opinion and in my experience with Terry and I, we went to 5 or 6 different counselors. Terry always mentioned number one, anger, as far as what she saw in me. Never once did a single counselor ever mention abusers. Now, let me make it clear, I am not knocking counselors. They're dedicated professionals and want to see people get healed or get better. So I'm not knocking that. I'm just telling you my experience, and not one of them mentioned abuse or even dug any deeper into the anger from an abusive side. And I wonder if that's because of lack of training. I don't know. But the core problem of the couple's issue is the abuser. So I advocate, the victim certainly needs to get in some counseling. There's probably some areas from their childhood that needs to be addressed, but just the healing, the trauma of trying to deal with years and years, some situation, decades of psychological abuse is going to take some pretty extensive therapy. So I'm for the victim going and getting their own counseling, and I'm certainly for the abuser getting in some counseling, obviously, but it has to be with a counselor, in my opinion, that's familiar with abuse, that understands and has a lot of hours of experience counseling abusers and understands the nuances. See, the abuser can put that mask on and a lot of times fool a lot of people. I was an expert at it. And so that abuser needs to be in with someone that can see through that. So I don't foresee any of that coming out when you have a husband and wife or a couple sitting there in a counseling situation. It needs to be branched out individually. Let that abuser heal. let that soak in for months, whatever it takes. Because in my circumstance, and really in the circumstances of most of the guys that I work with, once they wake up to their abuse, a lot of the problems they thought their wife had go away. They're looking at the magnitude of who and what they were and can see that they were just looking to shift blame onto them, or in my case, I was, Terry could do 99 things right, but man, I was with the microscope finding what she did wrong. And so when I woke up to that, my abusive lifestyle 10 years ago, I didn't spend 5 seconds looking at Terry's issues. I didn't do that for years. Not that I do it now, but I'm just saying, during my 3 decades of abuse, when I would constantly be looking at her faults, when I woke up, I didn't look at them at all. And now, now it's a moot point. So obviously I don't look at them. But and just a quick note for you abusers. If you're working with a counselor, a flag should go up the second you start shifting the conversation off of you onto your wife or the victim, that there's a problem there. 1 or 2 things have happened, in my opinion, my experience. Number 1, you haven't fully awoken and grasped the magnitude of who and what you were, and more importantly, the damage that you inflicted. We're talking, and I'm not trying to be dramatic here, we're talking about psychological, almost torture that we have inflicted upon our mates constantly, 24/7. So if you're focusing on her issues, you haven't grasped yet, in my opinion, the full magnitude of your issues. And you need to find a counselor that's going to hold you accountable to that. Or number 2, men, just generalizing, we tend to compartmentalize things. Women, they can deal with 82 issues at once. Men, we tend to, we get overwhelmed when we get too many issues to deal with. We deal with one issue at a time. We take that out, we take a look at the issue, we figure out how to fix it, put it back in, on to the next one, on to the next one. Well, that's what happens a lot of times in our abuse, and especially the recovery. We, for the ones that I work with, or even in your own counseling, you start making some progress. You start actually seeing the progress that you're making, and what happens, our natural tendency is to start compartmentalizing and saying, man, I'm getting better. When is she? When's she going to work? Or she still says this, so she'll come in and be angry, or blah, 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 blah. You cannot, again, a red flag should go up as soon as you shift from you to there, okay? You cannot allow that to happen. You, number 1, have no right. You have no say-so. No one has say-so on her healing. You have no idea the trauma that you inflicted. Our job as recovering abusers is to get ourselves healthy, to get the buttons short-circuited so we don't react in negative ways, that we find positive ways to react, because we're going to need it, and then sit there and help that bride to heal in however she needs to heal, in whatever time frame she needs to heal in. And I'll talk about that in some future videos. That's our job. If we truly love our wives, and I believe we do, that's our job, is to help. And then I'll tell you that relationship will just absolutely explode and flourish, explode in a good way, and flourish in unbelievable ways. So we need to get that abuser's mind woke up, get that brain starting to be reprogrammed to more healthy habits and patterns. Let that soak into the relationship. Allow the victim to see, and more importantly, start to believe the changes. And how long that takes is up to only one person, the victim. Don't let a professional tell you, if you're a victim of abuse, how long, the time frame is yours. because you are the only one that understands the pain that you went through, the psychological damage that you're dealing with. So, you know, let the healing soak in for a period of time. Months, could be years, I don't know. And then, and only then, evaluate the situation, evaluate the relationship, then decide if the couple's counseling is warranted, okay? So that's just some advice from my own personal experience. I hope this helps. I have contact information down in the description if you'd like to reach out to me. I have a life's mission here of just helping stamp out abuse. And this is Austin. You have a great day.